Hello everybody. In this short video, I'm going to be talking about limits or joint limits. How to limit mobility, rotation, slider joints, cylindrical joints, anything like that. So here on the selfie stick, I have a few joints, and I also don't have this joint here for actually a handle, so that's the one I'm working on today. But briefly, for our revolutes and our sliders. So in this slider right here, I kind of like the handle of where your phone would go. I have the joint here, and it can slide right now. So it's just a slider joint. If I kind of like zoom in, click on my joint here, it'll like be highlighted for me. If I was going to double click this and let's say just type in 0, it'll kind of bring it back to like its resting position, the position I kind of jointed it at specifically. So like if I click in here, I'm at 0. Well, let's say I go back in here, let me edit it now. So I'm gonna, one of two ways. Under your joints here on this left menu, on your triangles, you can go find your slider joint, or back on your timeline, on the bottom of the screen, you can go find what joint it is. So for example, for my joint here, let's go edit. Now right here, I have an offset in here and that brought the actual handle in. If I change this back to 0, because I don't want this, now it's fully kind of out at that 0 position. So let's put it back to 0. Cool, so we're ready. Joint limits. So kind of this orange marker. This is like what you're looking for when you actually want to edit it. So if you hover over the joint on the left-hand side here, you can go to kind of edit joint limits. Joint on the bottom on your timeline, if you right-click on it, edit joint limits. Orange icon with kind of this arrow, that's what we're looking for. So if I edit the limit, I can set a maximum and a minimum value. So this maximum and minimum is kind of how far I can slide, how much the degree of rotation for my revolute joints. And in this case, let's do a maximum of, let's say 1.25. So 1.25. If I hit enter right now, or let's just say animate, this is what the joint's going to be doing. So starting at the 0 position, because that's my minimum value, my maximum is 1.5. So if I hit OK right here, I can move it to like out 1.25, but I can only, it's starting at 0, so I can't move it backwards at all. But this is not what we want. We don't want this rotation. We want this actual handle here to go into, kind of towards the grip here. So if I go back to the limits, I'm going to flip this. So I'm going to put 0 back for my max, and for my minimum, I want to put negative 1.25. So for your minimum value, you always 100% of the time want to put negative numbers. If I change this to 1.25, if I can type, you can see that my maximum also changes. And I hit animate, nothing happens because it's starting at 1.25 and ending at 1.25. So that's why you have to put a negative into that minimum. Same thing could be said for your maximum. Maximum values have to only be positive numbers. So maximum is positive, minimum is negative. Always 100% of the time. So if I click OK, so now I can move my mouse. So you can't really see right now, but I'm kind of just going crazy with my mouse on my table here, just sliding it back and forth. Now this joint is limited this way and this way. Same thing could be said for a rotation joint here. So remember, if I double click on my flag, let's go back to the 0 position. This is my starting value here. Now, I know this one is Rev 6. So Revolute 6, that's what I'm looking for. If I go to my joint limits, the orange icon, maximum, minimum. Well, I'm starting at 0. Let's see which direction is which. So let's say I want 90 degrees. Okay, I animate. This is pretty good. It's not interlocking or interfering with anything. So let's just click OK. Let's see what happens. So now if I kind of just click and hold on my handle here, well, can't move it up because I locked it there at the 0 position. And now I can move it down. So if I rotate my piece a little bit, I can move it up. I can move it down. It's locking. So there's my limit there. That's not the right one for this actual project, but for this purpose, it's just demonstration. And as well, so this joint here, I want to do maybe like a slider. So let's go to joint, We always, for component 1, it's always going to piece that is not grounded. So in that case, that's our kind of tube here. So I'm going to click my rim. I'm going to select component 2. So I'm going to select my opposite piece, the shaft here. I'm going to select the rim here as well. So this is good. So now this is kind of like that full extension selfie stick if you're trying to take a picture on a mountain or something like that. I'm going to hit OK. Now this is my rigid joint, rigid number 10. So alternatively, let me go to the timeline. So this is rigid number 10 all the way at the bottom. If I right click, I go, let's just hit escape again. So if I right click, oh, sorry, what I did not do. So this is actually a good mistake. I want to edit this joint first. I did not change or set my motion. So if I don't set a motion, everything's rigid. There's no limits to mobility or like rotation or anything like that. So when I go to motion, I have to change this to slider. So now I can hit OK. I can right click on my joint again. There we go. So there's our joint limits. Now I can set a maximum and a minimum again. So I know this is roughly like 12 inches. So let's put 11. So again, this is the opposite direction. This is not what I want. So if I hit animate, it'll show me that it's extending 11 inches off. So this is like disconnecting. So let's change it. So it's maximum, let's go 0. Minimum, let's go -11 this time. That looks much better. So I hit animate. So now this is stopping on my like exit here. And then it's stopping up here as well. So perfect. My handle, if I click OK, it's not sliding off and it's not kind of collapsing into my knuckle up here. So that's great. So yeah, in this video, I went over the joint limits. Hopefully it helped.